We are back on The Chosen Journey. Jonathan A. Hacohen, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim bullpen coach Steve Karsay, and we are on chapter number 88, and this is Life Begins Again. Steve, we broke the news last week, and you shared your thoughts as far as the decision to come back to baseball and this crazy world that we call Major League Baseball, and life begins again. The 2024 season heading up. Really excited for you, and internet's a buzzing, and you must feel the juices going.
Yeah, like I said, it's fantastic. It's just you know, again, we talked about this last week, but everything just aligned perfectly, for me and my family and for the organization and for them to consider me for this opening and for this job, was super special, and I'm very honored, and I'm happy that I'm part of their organization now, and going to get on the path of you know trying to continue their winning ways. They've been really good the last couple years and getting out of the gate. Now it's just trying to maintain that throughout a whole season, and get to the promised land at the end of the year.
Well, with the danger of breaking the internet here, when I asked you a question several months ago, and we talked about your conversation with your son Kingston, and happy belated birthday to Kingston, by the way.
Thank
And,
you.
and we talked about your decision at the time to step away from the Milwaukee role and spend time at home, and how that conversation went. Well, over 500,000, almost 600,000 people on TikTok found that riveting to hear and flooded us with hundreds of comments, and conversations began. So now, with the journey continuing and now making a decision to come back to baseball and join the Angels, can you walk us through the conversation with Kingston and how that went?
Yeah, well, I definitely had to get the family stamp of approval, that's for sure, and Kingston's stamp of approval to do that. Listen, it wasn't just a conversation this year. It's always been a conversation from the time that I stepped down from the Milwaukee job after the 2021 season. It's been a conversation. It's been an ongoing conversation year after year after year. For the past 2 years, like, it's not everyday conversation, but it pops up and it rears its head on occasion, because every off season I get telephone calls. And I've been very fortunate about that the relationships I've developed, that people would trust to give me a call and ask where I'm at in life and how interested I am, no matter what the job was. So, in the off seasons, last year was, really the first of the last couple that I've got calls. And when those calls come, Kingston and I always have a conversation about it. He's like, Dad, what was that? It's like, hey, that was just so and so. You know who he is. We've talked a little bit about what I've wanted to do and all of that. And it's just one of those things where when he's 11, it's a little different conversation to now when he's 13, and he's a lot more mature. He's a lot more understanding of you know where everybody in life is, and where he's at in his baseball career as a young man, and where he's at in school, and the location of everything, and how things work, so to speak. When he's younger, he doesn't know how things work. He's happy to be on a baseball field wherever I'm at, and playing. He's loved having me as a coach, but there's challenges in being your son's coach, right? I mean, you lock the doors behind him at night and you're telling him what to do. And then when you get to the field, sometimes you can butt heads a little bit. I mean, it's just, I'm sure any father who coaches their son or daughter runs into the same problems. And I've had this conversation with many of my friends with sons that they've coached in the past. So, it really wasn't big of a conversation, to be quite honest with you. Is, hey, Kingston, listen, here's the deal. An opportunity might come about, and if this opportunity comes, how do you feel about it? And then you take into account what he says and how he do it, and you try to explain the best you can about the opportunity and things like that, and where he's at, and what maybe he's doing next year. playing baseball with a different coach, and flying the nest a little bit, so to speak, of not having his dad as the coach, because I think there's some value in that. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I really need you to understand what this is all about, and I really need you to be okay with this, uh, before I make a decision to, you know, enter that arena again, and commit to making this team better, and being gone for the summer.
So, Steve, as friend to friend, father to father, can I level with you?
Yeah.
I knew this was coming. And I'll tell you why I knew this was coming. So, do my road trip, come to visit you. I get to see the
Yeah.
Karsay compound, which was awesome. Get to see where Steve's office is there. It looks like he robbed Cooperstown a little bit. There's memorabilia as far as it's amazing. And your son is going to be going to high school, correct?
Not yet. He's in seventh grade, and he's
Going
finishing the seventh grade this year, and then he'll be going into eighth grade.
right. So eighth grade, it's funny because eighth grade is a very transitional year for all of us. When we think back,
Mm-hmm.
maturity wise and puberty and all that fun stuff, and then going to
Yeah.
high school. So, folks, now also, if you see Kingston, first of all, Proud Papa sends me videos of his defensive plays, of his home runs, his game winning hits. You come into to Kingston's room, the Kingston Karsay room, and like, wow, this kid eats, breathes, and sleeps baseball. Okay, there's jerseys, there's this. This kid loves the game, right? So now imagine for any of us who love the game and we play the game as much as Kingston does. Now, so son, I have this opportunity, in the 2023 season, this team had Otani and Trout, and they're close by. And I'll be going to all these stadiums. I'll get to see all these players and coaching all these great players. You want me to stay home or do you want me to be, Dad, go, get me out there right now. Every single 13, 14, 15-year-old right now would be clamoring to take their dad off the street and say, God, please get into the game. I want to do this. Steve, it was so going to happen. I mean, this kid's passion for the game. We were watching WBC together, and you're explaining to him the game behind the game, and he's asking you the questions. This kid is a student of the game.
He is, and I mean, I think that just comes with the territory, right? Me being was, coaching prior to his 11th birthday and up till then, and then coaching him. Like, I just want him and his friends and the team that we have to, you know, have baseball IQ. I think that's something that is lost in the game today with some of these young players, is just having an understanding of how the game is played and having a fundamental foundation of baseball in general. Yeah, it's great to hit the ball really far and have exit velocity. It's great to throw the ball really hard, but hopefully you can throw strikes. Like, there's the human element to the game that I think that has been missed over the course of the last 10 years with the analytics coming into play, and blending the two is really important. So I think he understands that. And like you said, I think he's just more mature now and understands where he's at in life, where I'm at in life as the family goes, and maybe what's ahead of him. So, but his big thing, right? I asked him, what do you want to do? You know, what is a goal of yours within, baseball when you see me coach or whatnot? You know what his number one goal is? To try to eat a pretzel at every Major League Baseball stadium. That's his goal.
I'm sure in
So,
Philadelphia they have Philly cheesesteak pretzels.
I don't know what they have, but I'm just saying. So, like, that's kind of where he was at, and now it's a little bit different. But he still wants to try a pretzel at every stadium. He knows he's eaten a different pretzel at 10 different stadiums when I was coaching before. Now maybe he can add on to that. But you're right. He is a student of the game. I try to teach him the best fundamental fundamentals as possible along with his team when we do our practices. And wherever that leads, that leads. I mean, they're so young right now. You just don't know where they're going to be 2 years from now. Like you said, the maturation process that they're going through with puberty, and then understanding how much knowledge they're trying to soak in with their brain. It's a lot of information. Baseball is a really hard game, and for young men to understand and grasp that portion of it, like my little token to them on a daily basis when we have games and practices is I try to let them know, hey, listen, baseball is a game of failure. You're going to have to learn how to accept portions of failure within the game. But just because you fail doesn't mean that's the end of the world. That's a learning experience for you guys. Now learn from the failure that you make and then move on and flush it as quick as you can.
I actually have a whole chapter in my book devoted to embracing failure, because it's one thing to fail and then consider yourself a failure versus
Correct.
failing being a teaching tool and being better for it and being grateful for the failures. Because to me, and not to ruin it for somebody reading the chapter, but I think real failure is not even trying, not even taking the attempt, and trying, seeing what happened, trying again, or saying, you know what, I got to move on to something else. That's not failure to me. That's learning.
I agree with you 100%. And it's all aspects of life. It's not just baseball. So, like, if you fail at school and you fail a test, yeah, hey, listen, it doesn't feel good, right? And it's not great. But if you can learn from that and move on and understand how to study a little bit better and then pass the next test, you've put yourself in a better spot.
Without putting it too much on the spot now, I want to put at the scenario to you. If you have, let's say, 27-year-old Steve Karsay, let's just pick an age, and
Okay.
he's got to make a free agency decision. There's, no spouse, no children, and as a single, in your prime, and figure out where one's gonna go to play baseball versus today's Steve Karsay, and with family responsibilities. What ultimately goes into the consideration of taking a role? I mean, I assume that it's the team, it's the management, location, geography. There must be a lot of stuff that goes into this when you accept the role. You don't just take a role blindly saying, I love that team, I love watching them on TV, and we'll figure out the rest. It doesn't work like that, does it?
No, no. As a player, when you hit free agency, and a lot of players don't get to experience free agency. You know, you have to complete 6 years in the big leagues to get there, and it's a very small portion of them that do. Some guys hit free agency one time, some might hit it twice. It all depends when you hit it. But to take into account the factors, I think it's a little bit different for every individual. I think geography plays a little bit of it. I think the team. I think let me take a step back real quick. Let me say, I think by the time a guy hits free agency, most guys have made a good amount of money, right? If you're hitting free agency, you've been in the big leagues for 6 years, you've made a little bit of coin, so to speak, and you're kind of taken care of. Now the other factors come into play. You know, I want to win. I want to win a World Series. What team gives me the best chance over the course of how many ever years I'm going to sign to win a World Series? Geography, maybe that, as a single guy with no kids and no commitments, like geography probably doesn't even play a huge factor. But it's the winning component, and then obviously the length of the contract, the dollar value of the contract, all of those things are going to come into consideration when a guy and his agent are deciding, what to do and where to go and where to play. But listen, at the end of the day, when I became a free agent and I signed with the Yankees, those were what I considered, and uh, you know, I didn't get it. Didn't win a World Series, and we had a really good team for the 4 years that are there. So there's no guarantee in winning a World Series, going to the highest payroll team, or you just thinking that that's going to pan out. You give yourself the best shot that you think about at that particular time when you're making that decision. But at the end of the day, you just got to be committed to that decision and know that that's where you're going to be for the long haul, depending on the years of the contract.
Well, I'm gonna manifest for you Angels World Series. I'm gonna vision that every day, and may God willing it all work out one day. So, but there's 29 other teams that are doing that at the same time. But that being said, it is exciting in the sense what I see is it's gonna be fresh coaches, young players. They're gonna pick which free agents will come on board, and you kind of versus stepping in where let's say you have a team where all the players came up together, and like a team like let's say Atlanta or even the Blue Jays, where you have this core, the core's been together for a while. Now you kind of be able to create it fresh and new image. and Wash is going to have a big part in that, deciding, and with you and the other coaches, and you guys will be able to mold what you want to build. And it's, in a way, it's kind of exciting to start it off fresh versus trying to change what's existing. So I see a lot of good things ahead for you, Steve, and for your team, and it's going to be an exciting season. So now, walking into this, I have a 5 pointer. So trying to understand the mind of a bullpen coach and where life goes. I kind of had a timeline. Bear with me on this. So first and foremost, we're coming in now in December, and we're in December 2023. Looking forward to 2024 season. As of right now, what would a bullpen coach be doing in December, going towards Christmas, New Year? What does that role look like?
I'm trying to learn the pitching staff. That's what I'm doing. I am digging into information. I am digging into video. I am looking at everything that I possibly can. I am, in constant contact with the pitching coach. We're talking about certain things. We're talking about how to set certain things up. We're talking about delivery. We're talking about just the overall pitching portion of, what we want to convey to the pitching staff. Obviously, from his point of view, he's the leader of the staff, Barry, and I want to be, a connection of who he is, or a part, of the pitching portion that he believes is going to do it. We've had conversations, so we line up, and I have a good idea of his philosophy and where he wants to go. But being on board with that and understanding that, obviously, trying to get to know the coaches a little bit more, reaching out to the players, talking to the players, just things like that. Those are the little things this early. But the number one thing for me is just sitting down and trying to figure out these guys on how they move and what their stuff is and how it moves. And because it's a lot different when you see it in person than when it is on a TrackMan plot. I mean, I can know what a guy's movement pattern is, but now it's the strike throwing ability, how is his delivery, things like that. And those are just things that you got to get into the weeds with the player and the pitching coach and all of that at the right time. So that's step one, in my opinion, is trying to get a really good handle on who the pitchers are on the 40-man roster, and then, how their stuff is, just by watching some video and connecting with them.
So we're 20% of the way there, folks. So we know now, going at the end of the holiday season to New Year's. Then number 2, when do you report for spring training? And then what does that role look like?
I mean, technically you don't report until they tell you to report, right? I mean, but spring training's in Arizona, and obviously, once I get into deeper conversations with, the people involved in the front office and Wash, and obviously, Barry lives out very close to where I'm out here in Arizona. So
Perfect. Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
so that works, where we can kind of connect and do some of the logistical things instead of just doing it over the phone or over Zoom or whatever it might be. So, when players start getting to the complex is when I'll probably start going down there, because that's where you start building relationships and start building that foundation of of trust and getting to understand the player, because you can understand the player a little bit better when he speaks to you, and then watching him live and how he moves and talking to him and trying to get his understanding of what he feels the right delivery is and things like that. So that would be the next step is, once the complex is open after the new year, and guys start filtering in, and I don't know when that is. The the guys will be working in their off season wherever they're at, and then they'll get here at the appropriate time, and any guy that lives in Arizona or is already here, we can just get a jump start on that. So that's the second step.
All right. I'm fast forwarding way ahead now. We're at step number 3. Okay. Season's going. You had a 7 p.m. game. Okay. The game is over at 9:50 p.m. Final out, shaking of the hands, the fist bumps, everything else. Are you in bed within 20 minutes, or what is
That's a negative. I'm lucky to be in the clubhouse in 20 minutes.
okay?
Um, Listen, no matter where it's at, right? Whether it be with the Angels or with the Brewers or with the Mets or with the Yankees, it doesn't matter who it is. Once the game's over, the process is the same. You go in, You kind of decompress for a few minutes, you kind of replay the game in your mind, you sit in the coaches' room with the coaches, and then you start just talking about baseball and how the game went and win or lose, on where we could have been better, or what the play was that might have made a difference, or did this guy throw the right pitch in this situation, or maybe next time we do this. Like, there's so many things, and you get a bite to eat, and then literally, you're not out of the clubhouse for at least an hour to an hour and a half after a game ends. And it's because of a lot of factors, right? I mean, you got to decompress, you got to eat, you talk about the game, you got to shower, and then you get into your car and drive home when the stadium's empty.
And then you get to bed, and turns out, Steve, you have another 7 p.m. game the next night. Okay, we got back-to-back 7 p.m. games. What time does the next day start, and when do you get to the stadium?
Yeah, well, again, each schedule is a little bit different depending on the day and the time of the game and things like that. But on a normal day, as a coach, no matter what coach you are, whether it's the bullpen hitting manager or whatnot, you probably get to the ballpark at between 12 and 1, you know, and then go through your day. And then BP, if you're at home, BP is a little bit later. I'm sorry, a little bit earlier because you're the home team, so you get the field first. On the road, BP is a little bit later, so you go in maybe between 1 and 2 when you're on the road, and you just get all your work done and you prep for the game. All your preparation is done prior to the game. The game just kind of plays itself out, but you have everything in order and knowing what you want to do from each individual standpoint, that Barry and I talk, or the group talks as a whole on how we're approaching it. You go through your scouting reports. You have your starter scouting report with the catchers prior to the game. The bullpen guys, if it's the first game before a series or the first day of a series, that's when you go over all the opposing hitters, and you have your bullpen meeting prior to or after BP and prior to the game, so it's fresh in their minds what they can do and how they can attack and things like that. And then it's my job to remind them when they're warming up. Again, try to slow the game down for them. Try to get them to understand, when they walk through those gates, what the mindset is going to be, how they're going to stay in attack mode, and how they are better than the hitter when they're standing on the mound.
This ain't a 9 to 5er, folks. And when you see that, one of the things about Ron Washington, which I've told you off the air, that I always found him very captivating as a speaker. When you hear him talk, you just want to like the guy. He's just so personable and so knowledgeable. But he was a big league manager. It goes back to being an infield coach, first base coach, third base coach. Like, this guy will take any position. He runs with it. No ego whatsoever. You don't do that because you're making millions of bucks. You do this because you love the game. You're doing it for the pure love of the game. This ain't a 9 to 5er. You're eat, breathe, sleep baseball constantly. And my hat's off to you to follow your dream, follow your journey, and it's going to be a fantastic season. And as we sum up today's chapter, we have point number 5. And I wanted to sum up today just so for the fans, so they understand, when you have a bullpen coach during the game, what is your key points of attack? Like, what is your main focus? Where is your head at as a bullpen coach during a major league game?
Well, I mean, obviously the players are already prepared, and we've gone on over the scouting report. So, my duties is to sit down there. Obviously we're looking for our starter to go 5 or 6 innings, right? Anything deeper than that is just a bonus, and we would love that because it takes a little bit of pressure off of the bullpen. But there's a lot of components to what we do. Obviously, when they call down to get a certain player up, get him up, understand. And this is part of the process that you got to start learning these guys. Like, how long does it take them to warm up? What their routines are. And then you got to find a cue for them within their delivery and be like, this is, they'll tell me what their cue is. I got to make sure I get my front arm up, or I got to make sure I load in my backside, whatever that might be. So you got to know these guys inside and out. And then as they're warming up, you just kind of reiterate the scouting report to the player on the first hitter that they're going to face, and kind of, how to attack them depending on what they feel comfortable with after they warm up. So, again, it happens fast. There's a lot of layers to it, but if you're prepared before you go in the game, warming up and get ready to go in and compete is the best part.
Go Angels. We are excited. He is Steve Karsay, the bullpen coach for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I still got to get used to this. I had a dream last night about this and us discussing, so I was manifesting it. You think about it and you believe it's going to happen and you never know for certain, but life takes its journeys. Steve Karsay, thank you for being so gracious with the fans and sharing your insights. And, it's one thing when you're watching on TV, but to understand what are the mechanics and what is the logic behind the game. You've always been incredible about that. And we'll be back next week. And as a surprise feature, we're going to talk about the 2024 Hall of Fame ballot and where's that headed? Who's heading to the Hall next? Stay tuned.